Ladies and gentlemen, I am the one and only DJ Storms. Welcome back to the channel here on YouTube.com. Finally got some nice weather here in Jersey. I am hoping that it is a consistent trend of good weather here in the month of May. We really need some light in this dark time. I'm sorry, that was a terrible analogy. It's such a stereotypical analogy, but I did have to kind of throw that in there because that's what I'm kind of known for. But anyway, I hope everyone has been having a great week. Happy May to all. And we are here, back again, as usual, in the same old place that we are so accustomed to seeing here on the channel. Back here for the Lightning Flash update for May 2nd, 2020, as we are heading into the final month of spring. Before we eventually get to June, hopefully this pandemic will end. I've been saying it every single time. I did receive the news that apparently new Florida guidelines are allowing crowds back for the wrestling shows as long as they follow the strict social distancing rules. I believe they're only allowed 25% max capacity, depending on how large of a venue they are holding their shows in. So apparently Dynamite will be held at the Daily's Place, as well as Double or Nothing will be held at the Daily's Place. So you're going to have to spread those fans out, as well as Monday Night Raw, SmackDown. I believe that they are going to be at the Performance Center still. They could very well start doing live tours again in June, even though I did hear that WWE was going to start moving away from the live event tourings. I don't know, that's just a little rumor that I heard circling in and around Twitter. But regardless, we got 5 weekly shows to review, and we got some news, rumors, and reports to talk about. Specifically, the rumor going around from Dutch Mantel about WWE possibly being sold to ESPN and or FOX. Disney as well. They're throwing their name in the hat there to possibly be the ones to buy the WWE. In my eyes, I don't think that Vince McMahon's going to do it. And even if he does do it, I think we should be a little bit more apprehensive if he does sell it rather than if he doesn't sell it. And I'm going to explain why. But that's near the end of the Lightning Flash update. First things first, follow me on Twitter at HistoryMakerDJS. Follow me on Instagram and Periscope at DJStorms. Later today is the Thunderscope live stream where Thunder will be performing Crazy Train by Ozzy Osbourne. So hop aboard the DJ Storms Express if you're with me. Add me on Facebook as well. All the links are in the description. For collaborations and business inquiries, please send me an email. My email is StormsTakeOver@gmail.com. Like the official DJ Storms business page on Facebook, and I may just send you an invite to join the official DJ Storms Posse group on Facebook, of course. The links are in the description. Quarantine with Thunder episode 5. I partied a little too hard. Again, if you want to find out what that means, you gotta click the link in the description, as well as my Dark Side of the Ring review, David Schultz, and the slap heard around the world. Dark Side of the Ring and Quarantine with Thunder have been doing great as of lately. The first Quarantine with Thunder episode is actually almost at 200 views. It's actually more popular than the Where's Thunder series that was done last year around this time. So I have to thank you guys for showing that series some love. It's very nice for me to take a break from the wrestling analytical material and just focus on being entertaining, coming up with stupid, funny 2-3 minute episodes for you guys to laugh about during this uncertain time. The Dark Side of the Ring reviews, they've been doing great as well. I've been loving the Dark Side of the Ring reviews. It's pretty cool for me to just take a break from being that other guy that I'm so accustomed to being and just talking about what's going on behind the scenes just as a person rather than as a gimmick. And of course, Lightning Flash update for the last couple weeks. That's been doing great. Lightning Flash update from 2 weeks ago is actually almost at 200 views. You guys have been really killing it with the Lightning Flash update. The entire brand's been on fire ever since this pandemic began. I've been getting 3+ videos up a week. I got a lot of videos to get up next week as well. Quarantine with Thunder episode 6 will be up next Wednesday. The Dark Side of the Ring review for next week's episode, I can't remember what exactly it was. I wasn't really paying too much attention to it. I was so focused on the David Schultz episode. And then next Friday is the rundown for Money in the Bank. Next Saturday, of course, is the Lightning Flash update. And then next Monday will be the rewind for Money in the Bank. And then after next Monday, I should be done with my college classes. So I'm going to have a lot more time to get a lot of content up for you guys. Going to do a lot more collaborations. Probably get some more people back here on the channel. I really do want to thank each and every single one of you who have watched, who've supported me on social media, here on YouTube. We are just a couple of subscribers away from peaking 1.9K. So the road to 2K is about to be under 100 subscribers until we eventually reach that goal. We're this close, people, so if you can get me nearly to 2K by the end of May, I think June's the goal for 2K, but so far we've been doing great as far as that goes. Keep it coming. Tell your friends, tell your family members, tell everyone about DJ Storms if you're looking for quality wrestling, entertainment, and analytics. And, of course, hit that thumbs up. Try and get this video to 25 thumbs up. Of course, leave a comment down below. What were your thoughts on this week's weekly shows and the news, rumors, and reports? And, of course, hit the subscribe button on the road to 2K and hit the notifications bell with a huge coup de grace. That way you will know whenever I pop up on YouTube. Because whenever I pop up on YouTube, it is the best time to be on YouTube. I mean, come on, people. Come on. You want to see this glorious face, this glorious sideburn chin strap combo with the new quality mustache we got going on over here. I see you, ladies. And last but certainly not least, Blue Riot Podcast. If you are not subscribed to the Blue Riot Podcast, if you're not listening to the Blue Riot Podcast, I don't know what the fuck you're doing. I mean, come on. Blue Riot Podcast is the fastest rising podcast in the wrestling community today. Me and the Blue Riot. Shout out to him. Go follow him on Twitter at Blue Riot with 2 T's. Follow the podcast on Twitter as well at Blue Riot Pod. The link to the iTunes podcast is in the description, but you can listen to it on all platforms where you find your podcast, whether it be on iTunes, Podbean, Anchor, Spotify, everywhere. We have episode 4 of AEW Darkmite, where we talked about the Young Bucks seeing FTR in the sky on Being the Elite. We talked about AEW Dark and the 2 great semifinal matches of the TNT Championship Tournament this week on Dynamite. That's in the description. Go follow that link. And we saw a bonus episode where me, Blue Riot, and Joseph Conlon of the Big Fight Feel YouTube channel. Go subscribe to Joseph Conlon and his friend Eddie Mullen. It's Big Fight Feel on YouTube. Joseph Conlon made his podcast debut where me, him, and the Blue Riot, we talked about our top 5 greatest matches of all time that we have seen. We threw in a few honorable mentions in there. Go follow the link in the description so you can listen to that podcast as well. We are so close to having 100 subscribers for the Blue Riot Podcast on iTunes. So I want you guys to go show the Blue Riot Podcast some love. Pledge to the Patreon page as well. You can follow the link in the description or follow Blue Riot on Twitter to get more information on that. Enough of the self-brand promotion and advertisements. Let's get straight into the weekly show reviews now, shall we? Monday Night Raw. Or should I say Monday Night Snore, because this show was a snooze fest. Not as big of a snooze fest as SmackDown was this week, but regardless, this was nothing more than a 3-highlight show outside of the 6-man tag, the U.S. title match, and the very good contract signing with Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. This show was a complete waste of time. Matter of fact, I am debating whether or not to cut out the Raw and SmackDown reviews from the Lightning Flash update. I am this close to doing it. I understand that it's very unlike me because I want to make myself aware of what's going on, and I've been doing this for the entire 3 years because I know there's a lot of people that watch Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live. I watch 7 shows. Right now it's 5, but hopefully after this pandemic ends, it's going to be back to 7. But I've been watching 7 shows for the majority of this year, and I've been watching all the shows as far as weekly wrestling programming goes. That's convenient, at least. But I'm this close. This close. We're going to see if it can finally break me. But Monday Night Raw started off with MVP's VIP Lounge. He introduces Rey Mysterio, Aleister Black, and Apollo Crews. And before Apollo Crews could even speak, when he was talking to Apollo Crews, they were interrupted by Zelina Vega and her associates. Says that people can't get enough of her clients. To a certain extent she's right, but at the same point in time, Vince and creative can't get enough of mistreating her clients. And the mistreatment continued. Says that the future is bleak if one of these individuals, of course talking about Rey, Apollo, and Aleister, wins the briefcase. And they said that they should let her clients take their place. Rey says that they came out looking like they want to fight. So a big brawl, and we got a 6-man tag. And I want to ask the question, why is it that you're booking a 6-man tag with 6 individuals who realistically should not be taking any losses whatsoever. None of them should be taking a loss. So why are you booking a six-man tag that's ultimately going to result in one of these trios taking a loss and either further delegitimizing Vegas stable or delegitimizing the Money in the Bank ladder match participants on the Raw side? You really couldn't have had anyone else not named Austin Theory, Angel Garza, and Andrade do the job for Aleister Black, Apollo Crews, and Rey Mysterio? Now, don't get me wrong, the six-man tag match was very good. It was probably one of the best parts of the entire show, but at the same point in time, what sense does it make to put Zelina Vega's stable in there with the Money in the Bank ladder match contract participants from Monday Night Raw, when realistically, none of those six men should be taking any losses going into Money in the Bank? Specifically because the Money in the Bank ladder match participants are supposed to look legit going into that match. And secondly, because Zelina Vega's stable already got delegitimized the week prior when they each took 2 Claymores in a single night from Drew McIntyre. Now, don't get me wrong. This was a very good match. We had Black and Cruz with double topes, taking out Garza and Theory before the commercial. Rey got the hot tag, big senton roundhouse kick. Rey caught Garza with a crossbody for a 2. Garza took over control going into a second commercial break. Theory with the standing moonsault for a 2. Cruz got the hot tag. Cruz lit up everyone. And when Apollo Crews gets going, you can't deny the guy's skill. When Apollo Crews gets going, he gets going. Black took out Theory. Angel took out Rey Mysterio. We then had Cruz with the sit-out powerbomb for the win. He reversed the hammerlock DDT. Very good match, but completely unnecessary. Afterwards, we had a segment with Andrade and Zelina Vega saying that they can't beat me one-on-one when the title's on the line. That's pretty much what Andrade said. Cruz came in. He challenged Andrade. Andrade said, "You don't deserve this opportunity." Cruz said, "How about now?" And he smacked the taste out of Andrade's mouth. And I'm telling you, he absolutely uncorked a slap from fucking hell. I don't know if it was because Andrade was sweaty. I don't know if it was because Apollo Crews really went into it. But man, it sounded like a gunshot went off in the PC. So then we ended up getting a United States Championship match later on that night. Nia Jax versus Shayna Baszler versus Asuka. That actually was supposed to be a triple threat match that never took place. Match shouldn't even have been booked to begin with. And realistically, they probably did the best possible thing that they could have done to get themselves out of this tight booking situation. But at the same point in time, the fact that Shayna Baszler and Asuka, two of the most legitimate women in the WWE right now, the two most legitimate women in the Money in the Bank ladder match, specifically for the women, they had to be sacrificial lambs to get Nia Jax over as a dominant force. When in reality, Nia Jax should have been part of the list of names that got released a couple weeks ago on Black Wednesday. How you released Deonna Purrazzo and Sarah Logan and MJ Jenkins, but you keep Nia Jax. Again, if that is any indication of how this company sees women's wrestling, if that is any indication of Vince McMahon's vision for women's wrestling, you already know where I'm going with this. Baszler goes after Asuka immediately before the bell even rang, so Jax tossed Baszler into the barricade. Baszler introduced the ladder. Asuka tossed Baszler into the ladder. Nia introduced another ladder and used it against Baszler and Asuka. The match never officially began. Nia stood tall. And I will say this again. The day that Nia Jax retires is the day the division improves just slightly. Just slightly. I cannot wait. Let me tell you something. I never wish harm. I never wish injury upon anyone. You guys know that. I'm not that type of guy, but there is a small part of me. There's a really, really small part of me that really wishes that that double knee injury that Nia Jax had last year, it really makes me wish that injury would have been career ending, so I wouldn't have to see her on television again. She has improved In no way, shape, or form. She still looks the same. She still has the same haircut, same moves. She moves around the same. She moves around the ring the same, and she still has the same unsafe attitude. And she's trying to use that to get heat on Twitter, when in reality, it's go-away heat. We don't want to see Nia Jax on television at all. It's not because she's a good heel and we want to see her get her ass kicked. It's because she sucks at her job. So moving on here. We had Denzel Desjardins versus Bobby Lashley. Very academic. Suplex, spinebuster, and spear for the win. Who gives a shit? Liv Morgan versus Ruby Riott. I'm over here thinking, great, now we're going to get 50-50 booking, and we're probably going to get a third matchup between Liv Morgan and Ruby Riott at Money in the Bank, because WWE does not know how to properly book a feud. But Liv Morgan actually ended up getting the win here. So Liv Morgan now has momentum. Liv Morgan with a hip attack. Ruby Riott with the Riott kick, but Liv Morgan kicked out. Morgan eventually hit the flatliner off the ropes for the win. Liv says that she's still trying to figure out who she is, but she is confident that she'll finally figure it out. I was actually surprised that they gave Liv Morgan the win. I could have bet my life that they were going to do 50-50 booking here. But after what happened, I am not really complaining. The only thing that I will say is that it really does suck that Ruby Riott has no direction. It really does suck that Ruby Riott has no place to go. I mean, I'm glad that Liv Morgan is getting the opportunity. Liv Morgan has momentum. Keep that going. I want to see Liv Morgan succeed. I want to see what Liv Morgan can do. And if Liv Morgan keeps up the momentum, I can actually see her challenging for a world championship. She's probably not going to win the women's world championship, but it would certainly be a breath of fresh air to see what a woman like Liv Morgan could actually do. She's decent in the ring. She has a good look. So I don't mind Liv Morgan gaining momentum here. Keep that going. It just sucks that Ruby Riott has to be the sacrificial lamb for this. I'm actually surprised Ruby Riott wasn't released. Matter of fact, can I just point this out here? You have Ruby Riott. You have Natalya, you have Liv Morgan, you have Kairi Sane, you have Naomi, you have Sasha Banks, you have Sonya Deville, yet you have Dana Brooke, Nia Jax, Lacey Evans, and Carmella in the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. I don't know about you, but again, if that is an indication of what this company thinks about women's wrestling, then I would not want to be working for this company if I was a legitimate women's wrestler. After this, I actually went to take a shit. I went to take a shit, and I did not look at my phone whatsoever. I know like some people when they go to the toilet, they like to twiddle on their phones when they're dropping a deuce. But me, I didn't do that, so I didn't know what was going on. I did not know what was going on. I come back. Akira Tozawa's in the ring, and then I hear Jinder Mahal's music. I come back from taking a shit, and I come back to the biggest piece of shit for a professional wrestler that the company has employed in Jinder Mahal. I went to take a Jinder Mahal, and I come back to Jinder Mahal. What do you want me to say? Samoan drop and a Colossus for the win. This show was an automatic thumbs down after that because I have to watch a worthless, piss-poor excuse for a pro wrestler in Jinder Mahal defeat one of the most underrated stars that the company has on Monday Night Raw in Akira Tozawa. Automatic thumbs down right there. And you know, I did not want to believe what they said when Jinder Mahal was making his entrance, but Mike Rome did announce him as a former WWE champion. And right then and there, I was very, 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 very scared. Because there is certainly nothing that's stopping WWE from having the two old 3MB members in Drew McIntyre and Jinder Mahal fight for the WWE Championship in June. And you know, there were a few people in the community. There were a few people in and around the community between WrestleMania and Monday Night Raw, up until the time Jinder Mahal returned, there were a few people in the community throwing the idea around of Jinder Mahal challenging for the WWE Championship against Drew McIntyre, and I just let it roll off my back. I just let it roll off my back. If I saw a tweet, I just breezed right over it. I paid it no attention. But after what happened on Monday, I'm terrified. I am terrified. And you know, there's people that even have tweeted out that Jinder Mahal's WWE Championship reign was not even that bad. And I'm thinking to myself, were you fucking dropped on your head as a child? I don't know what's going through your mind, but I think you might want to check yourself into the nearest mental facility and put yourself down for immediate brain surgery, because right then and there, you just showed me that you're dangerously stupid. If you are a Jinder Mahal supporter, you are the absolute fucking problem with this wrestling community, and you do not deserve to utter a fucking word about professional wrestling, and I have no respect for you as a wrestling fan. And after what happened with the United States Championship match, I'm even more scared. I'm even more scared because Jinder Mahal in a WWE Championship match in itself is bad. Now, he's more likely than not, if he's facing Drew McIntyre in a one-on-one match, straight up, he's not going to win. Don't get me wrong, he's not going to win. And let me tell you something, Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins, that match doesn't make sense and shouldn't even be happening in Money in the Bank, but I would rather watch Drew McIntyre and Seth Rollins fight 20 times throughout the summer leading up to SummerSlam than watch one WWE Championship match between Jinder Mahal and Drew McIntyre. But if Drew McIntyre's in a WWE title match with Drew McIntyre's in a WWE Championship match with Jinder Mahal in June, whatever pay-per-view's going on in June, more likely than not, Drew McIntyre's going to win. But after what happened with the United States Championship match, and it was a very good United States Championship match, Apollo and Andrade really worked their asses off in this match. This is probably the best thing on the show. Apollo tweaked his knee, coming off the apron with a moonsault. And Andrade worked on the knee all match. Apollo actually tweaked his knee again, coming off the top rope with a splash, and the referee ruled that he could not continue. Andrade retained because Apollo Crews was unable to continue the match. An hour after Monday Night Raw went off the air, the WWE announced that Apollo Crews' injury has forced him out of Money in the Bank. Now, this could mean good for Apollo Crews, don't get me wrong. This could mean good for Apollo Crews, and this could end up meaning Apollo Crews could end up winning the United States Championship after Money in the Bank. Don't get me wrong, and I'm all for that, because I want to see Apollo Crews succeed. This could benefit Apollo Crews in a sense, and have him in another match for the United States Championship against Andrade after Money in the Bank sometime. He could end up winning the title. I'm all for that. But now, Money in the Bank is down one competitor from Monday Night Raw. WWE recently just announced a last chance gauntlet match. They announced a last chance gauntlet match, and they have not announced the competitors. I don't know about you, but I am terrified that they haven't announced the competitors, because we don't know what's going on Monday. Based on their track record, I would not be surprised if WWE has Jinder Mahal in that gauntlet match, and Jinder Mahal wins the gauntlet match, goes to Money in the Bank, and WWE fuck over Aleister Black. They fuck over Aleister Black, who realistically should win the briefcase. They fuck over Aleister Black, and they give the briefcase to Jinder Mahal. Now, Jinder Mahal more than likely could become a two-time WWE champion. Monday Night Raw just received their lowest ratings in the history of their entire show with 1.8 million. If Jinder Mahal is WWE champion, the ratings will go down. Down. And I'm telling you, if that happens, I would not be surprised if the ratings dip under 1 million by the start of 2021. I wouldn't. Street Profits cut a promo on the Viking Raiders, pretty much said that they'll be free next week to fight, and they challenged the Viking Raiders next week. Match was made for next week. Ricochet, Cedric Alexander versus Everrise from NXT. They win with a dropkick flatliner combination. MVP came up on the screen. Says he's now the manager of Shane Thorne and Brendan Vink, and he wanted a rematch for the new team of Shane Thorne and Brendan Vink against Cedric Alexander and Ricochet and said that that would be straight up ballin'. So more than likely than not, that match is going to be taking place next week. Contract signing between Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. So Drew McIntyre signs the contract and tells Jerry Lawler to get out of the ring. Rollins went on to say that he doesn't want to do this, but he has to because he is a leader. Rollins says he doesn't want to be the one to ruin Drew McIntyre's dream. But if that's what has to be done, then that's what has to be done. He says he doesn't want what happened to Drew, doesn't want what happened to him to happen to Drew. I apologize. So Drew waits for Seth Rollins to finish, and he says that his speech was passionate, and it's quite clear to me and everyone watching at home, Seth, that you're full of shit. Uncensored, by the way. You are full of shit. He says that the fans are the ones that turned on Seth Rollins, right? Because it's never Seth Rollins' fault. That right there was a direct shoot. He says that he will not let Seth win the title under any circumstances. And he gives Seth 2 pieces of advice. Says that every time Seth Rollins talks, he gets his foot stuck in his mouth and his head stuck up his ass. So, piece of advice number 1 is don't talk. And I concur with Mr. McIntyre. He then says, for Rollins, at Money in the Bank, go for the throat, because I'm going for yours. Rollins says the bigger picture will come forth, and before Rollins could even finish his sentence, Drew McIntyre bounces Seth Rollins' head off the table like a fucking basketball, which made me laugh. He starts taking out Seth Rollins, and before he could hit the Claymore, Buddy Murphy came in to save Seth Rollins. Rollins then hugged Murphy, but Murphy ended up catching a Claymore, and Drew McIntyre stood tall. Next week, we got Drew McIntyre versus Buddy Murphy. Should be a great match. This was an excellent contract signing, and I will say it again. The match should not even be taking place. I have no idea why it's taking place, because Seth Rollins sure as hell don't deserve it. However, this contract signing, it sold me. This contract signing sold me. More likely than not, this could be the best match of the night. Matter of fact, this is probably the only matchup that I'm actually intrigued by at Money in the Bank. Because Money in the Bank this year looks completely piss poor. But outside of this contract signing, outside of the U.S. title match, and outside of the 6-man tag match, the show was a complete waste of time, like it usually is every single week. I don't really know what I can say that I haven't already said before. I don't know what I can say that a lot of people in and across the community, podcasters, Twitch streamers, YouTubers, content creators, or just flat-out wrestling fans, I don't know what I can say that the majority of wrestling fans that watch Monday Night Raw haven't already said. Show sucked. AEW Dark. Nothing special. Nothing special. Another academic episode. If you missed it, you didn't really miss much. We had Shawn Dean versus Jimmy Havoc. Shawn Dean got some arm drags in and a big drop kick. Havoc with a suplex into the turnbuckle. Havoc with the Acid Rainmaker and Fisherman DDT, in which he piked Shawn Dean's head into the mat for the win. This, obviously, was a setup for the no DQ, no count-out match that Jimmy Havoc had alongside Kip Sabian against the Best Friends that was taking place on Dynamite. We then had Musa and Lee Johnson versus the Best Friends, hyping up the Best Friends tag team match again, so the entire show was built around selling that no DQ match specifically. We had Chuck Taylor in control early with a flapjack and a dropkick on Musa. Trent with the big clothesline turning Lee inside out. Northern Lights suplex for a 2. Musa hit the roll-through dropkick. Lee with the house call in tribute to Isaiah Swerve Scott there for a 2 count. Trent with a planche over the top rope on Musa and a big spear on Johnson. Soul Food half and half, and then the Strong Zero for the win, and the Best Friends get the win and enhance their win-loss record. That was pretty much it. And I am just waiting for these crowds to come back. I am waiting for normality to return so we can finally get AEW Dark back to where it needs to be, where they're actually building storylines and they're actually building feuds, building great matches, and building the show all around the current talent and not just using it to get the independent wrestlers like Lee Johnson and Musa work. AEW Dynamite this week. And I don't want to sound biased, but this was probably the best empty arena show that AEW Dynamite has put on to date. This show was a great show from top to bottom. The show had three excellent matches that delivered big time. We started off with Cody versus Darby Allin in the TNT Championship Tournament semifinals. Cody actually tweaked his knee, bridging out of a pin, and Darby Allin went straight for the knee. So right then and there, we had a story to tell with Cody's knee. Darby Allin, he ended up taking out Brandy, and Cody actually went right after Darby Allin. And Cody here was playing a great heel in this match. And once the time eventually is right, I think that Cody is going to play a great prick heel. The entitled golden boy. When the time is right, and when you have the proper opportunity, I think Cody is going to succeed immensely as the prick heel that we all know he can be. And he's shown it against Darby Allin in these past 3 matches that he's had. Darby hit a big code red for a 2. We had a big release suplex and disaster kick by Cody. Darby Allin reversed the fireman's carry by Cody into a crossroads. Darby Allin hit the crossroads, but Cody kicked out. And Darby Allin went right for the knee into the figure 4 on Cody. Brandy brought out a water. Cody took a sip, but Darby said, fuck this. He took the bottle, bashed it over Cody's head. Cody ended up hitting the crossroads. Darby sold the shit out of it as if he broke his neck. Darby kicked out. So Cody Rhodes is like, all right, you want to do my move? I'll do your move. Cody went up to the top rope, and he actually glided pretty gracefully, I will say. Cody actually does a fairly decent coffin drop. Cody went for the coffin drop. Darby Allin got his knees up. Darby Allin hit the coffin drop, but he didn't realize that Cody got his shoulder up, and Darby's shoulder was down. And I did say this was an excellent ending, but looking back on it, it made Darby look like a fool. It made Darby look like an idiot. It did not look good whatsoever. It really looked like Cody just rolled over. Didn't even look like he even had an arm over Darby Allin. And Darby Allin looked like a dumbass at the end of it. I understand what they were going for, and trust me, Cody winning was the right result. Mainly because of the fact that there is a bigger story to tell with Darby Allin, but they could have played that out a hell of a lot better. Cody was the right person to win, and Darby Allin, there's a bigger story to tell with Darby Allin, which will culminate at the end of the year, which I'll talk about after we talk about the main event, but this ending did not look good at all. It looked sloppy. It looked completely ridiculous. It made Darby look like an idiot. It did not resonate well whatsoever. It did not come off on television whatsoever. I understand what they were going for, but they could have played it out a hell of a lot better. I honestly think that maybe Cody had the wind knocked out of him, which is why he didn't roll over so effectively, which is why it didn't really look like he had an arm over Darby Allin's shoulder. I don't know what specifically it was, but it did not look good. The match was great, don't get me wrong. Match was excellent. The ending, not so much. We had another promo from Scorpio Sky talking about how Daniels and Kazarian were a big influence on his career. Sky said that he wants not just to be very good, he doesn't just want to be a great superstar, he wants to be a fucking legend. It was simple, it was quick, it was effective. They didn't really go too much in depth on it, but for what it was definitely, what's the word that I'm looking for? It was definitely effective. It's definitely getting Scorpio Sky across as an underdog babyface. The story being told with Scorpio Sky's career is definitely something that is going to get fans more invested in him. And I did say he's going to be the breakout star of SCU. Daniels and Kazarian, they're coming to the end of their career, and I know Blue Riot, shout out to him again, I know he wants to see the Addiction have one last run on their own as a tag team, which I definitely wouldn't mind. Scorpio Sky, he could very well be in the TNT Championship title hunt. You never know, he could very well be a TNT champion by 2021. I think that Scorpio Sky is going to have a great singles career. He's young, he's hungry, he's in great shape, and I think that in due time, Scorpio Sky could definitely be world champion. So MJF, he was shown in his house. He said he was able to rehab his injury, says that the doctor said it was the strongest rehab that he's ever seen, and MJF officially has the strongest nail in the world. Gotta love MJF. Unfortunately, he said that when he was shaving, he nicked his neck. He unraveled his scarf. He was wearing a neck brace. But he says that MJF, he is better than you, and you know it, and he'll be back next week. Nicked his neck. Fantastic. Fantastic. How can you not love Maxwell Jacob Friedman? Working everyone like the dick that he is. It's great. It's great. Cannot wait. I cannot wait to have MJF back on Dynamite. This eventually led into a match between Musa and Wardlow, where Wardlow beat the ever-living shit out of Musa. And I don't really know where Wardlow's going to go. I feel as though that they're doing this to give Wardlow something to do, give him work, in a sense, on Dynamite. Because right now, his role as MJF's bodyguard is probably the best role that he possibly could be playing. We'll see where it goes, but I don't really see Wardlow factoring into anything in the coming months, especially in the summer and or the fall, considering that there are a lot of people that are ahead of him. But this was an academic squash match, F10 for the win, and that was it. Bubbly Bunch Part 3. Everyone's favorite new segment on Dynamite, the Bubbly Bunch. So Sammy Guevara said, "Suck my big bottle of sanitizer," because he won the Flim Flam Challenge. So Ortiz started a virtual FaceTime fight. We had Sonny Kiss in there, we had Peter Avalon, we had Jungle Boy. The fluffy guy, Gabriel Iglesias, he was in there. I believe Chris Jericho's father was in there. I believe his Fozzy band members were in there. And then Vicky Guerrero was in there as well. Jericho said that that was awesome, and that was pretty much it. This was entertaining. This was very entertaining. It was funny, and I believe that the Bubbly Bunch right now is the best comedic segment in professional wrestling as we speak. So then we had the Best Friends versus Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc. No disqualification, no count-outs tag team match. This was brutal. This was brutal in every sense in the word, and I will go so far as to say that this was the best match of the night. All four men earned their fucking paycheck in this match, especially Trent. Trent was on the receiving end of some brutal shit. You got to give it up for, even Orange Cassidy and Penelope Ford, you got to give it up for. Everyone in this match earned their fucking due. And I will even go so far as to say this. I even tweeted this out. This match, the Best Friends versus Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc, this is what Moxley and Hager should have been. Moxley and Hager started off chain wrestling. They barely even used any weapons outside of a steel chair in Daly's place. Within 2 minutes, these two teams were bringing out chairs. They were bringing out ladders. They were bringing out guardrails. They were bringing out all the hardware. All the weapons within 2 minutes of this match. This match went about 15 minutes, and straight out the gate, they got the weapons. That's what Moxley and Hager should have done. But this was an excellent no DQ match. Trent with the Tope Con Hero taking out Sabian and Havoc. We had a suplex on Taylor onto some chairs. Trent then speared Jimmy Havoc when he was about to crush Chuck Taylor's ankle on a chair. Sabian over the top rope taking out Trent. We had Jimmy Havoc bringing in a ladder. Havoc catapulted Trent headfirst into the ladder. The Best Friends then threw some chairs at Havoc as if they were going for their signature hug, but instead of hugging Havoc, they threw the chairs right at his head. Soul Food half and half on Sabian for a 2. We had the sexy Chucky knee strike with a steel chair, broken up by Havoc. Sabian set up a ladder but Havoc saved him. He then tripped up Trent, and Trent went back first. It almost looked like he went neck first onto the ladder. I would not want to be Trent in that scenario. We had a Michinoku driver on the chairs. Sabian then, when Trent was still draped over the chairs were on their side, and Trent was still draped over him. Sabian with a coup de grace, a double stomp, while Trent was still draped over the chairs. And I'm telling you right now, it looked as if Trent legitimately got his chest caved in. You could not pay me all the money in the world to take a Michinoku driver on chairs on their side. Chairs didn't even fucking break. And then Kip Sabian does a picture-perfect double stomp while I'm still draped over the chairs. I think my career would have been over right there. Taylor then hit the pile driver on the chair, but Ford broke it up. Taylor then got back body dropped into a ladder, and the ladder did not break. Taylor got back body dropped onto the ladder by Jimmy Havoc. Brutal back body drop. Orange Cassidy then got involved. Cassidy took out Sabian and Ford, and then Chuck Taylor with a running pile driver on the chairs to Havoc for the win. This match was brutal. Again, I will state, this is how you do an empty arena stipulation match. This was better than Moxley and Hager, Gargano and Ciampa, and Edge versus Randy Orton from WrestleMania. Excellent no DQ match. Right winners, and I would definitely not mind seeing the Best Friends challenge Hangman and Kenny for the AEW World Tag Team Championships before the Dark Order eventually take it off of them. This was great. Shawn Spears versus Baron Black. Very academic match right here. Nothing special. Shawn Spears with the spine buster. And we then had a C4 and a sharpshooter for the win. Shawn Spears taps out Baron Black with the sharpshooter. Seems as though they have dropped this cheesy, let's find Shawn Spears a partner storyline for the time being. I would not mind Shawn Spears being TNT champion by mid-2021. Matter of fact, I actually think that's what's going to happen in my eyes. Brody Lee versus, Mr. Brody Lee versus Marco Stunt. This was probably the most unintentionally funny part of the entire show, just because I love seeing Marco Stunt get his ass kicked. Brody Lee was absolutely destroying Marco Stunt. Absolutely fucking destroying Marco Stunt. Brody Lee actually caught Marco Stunt when Marco Stunt went for a crossbody off the middle rope. He caught him in a spinning side slam that looked like Marco Stunt was in a fucking tornado. It looked legitimately as if Marco Stunt was in a tornado, went round and round and round and round and round, planted him to the ground, powerbomb for the win. Brody Lee wins, and Brody Lee continues his momentum. Can't wait to see Stu Grayson and Evil Uno back on Dynamite. I definitely hope they are going to eventually win the tag team titles, and Brody Lee is going to be the mastermind behind the tag team that is Stu Grayson and Evil Uno. Jon Moxley cut a promo saying that he'll be back and everyone will be together again. Said that he's thankful that AEW is live and that he'll be live next week. Says that don't forget to call your grandmother. Next week, he'll be facing Frankie Kazarian. Looks like we got some of the roster members back in action next week. So MJF's returning next week. We got Frankie Kazarian and Jon Moxley. And we have the Sex Gods, Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara, versus Matt Hardy and Kenny Omega in a street fight next week. Next week's Dynamite's looking stacked. We could very well have live audiences in the Daily's place, even though it's only 25%. You're going to have to spread them out. It's definitely going to be interesting to see how they do this, even though wrestling is not essential, and I do think that we should not be having any audiences in the crowd, or any people in the crowd, and we should not be having any wrestling shows, period. And I really think that wrestling really should cease, just like every other sport. But regardless of that, I actually can't wait for next week's Dynamite. They're actually doing a very, very good job at building towards Double or Nothing, especially with the TNT Championship Tournament. And that's exactly what we got with the main event. Lance Archer versus Dustin Rhodes, semifinals match in the TNT Championship Tournament. This told an excellent story. This was probably the best storytelling match in the entire tournament. I still think the best match is Cody and Shawn Spears in the first round, but this was an excellent story told by Dustin Rhodes and Lance Archer in this matchup. Lance Archer with a pounce sending Dustin Rhodes to the floor. Lance Archer actually busted Dustin Rhodes open when Lance booted a chair into Dustin Rhodes' face. Lance Archer was viciously punching the open wound. Dustin hit Shattered Dreams, but Lance did not stay down for very long. Dustin with the Code Red. Dustin with a big lariat taking down the big Murderhawk monster. Power slam by Dustin. Crossroads, but Lance kicked out at one. Choke slam by Lance Archer, but Dustin Rhodes stayed alive. Archer was doing an arm bar, a regular arm bar. He twisted the arm, and he went up to the top rope, and he did old school, channeling his inner Undertaker, but instead of doing a diving punch to the back off the old school, the guy does a moonsault. Now picture this, 6'6", 260 pounds, 270 pounds. The guy does a moonsault off of an old school position on Dustin Rhodes. Picture perfect moonsault that would make Charlotte Flair jealous, because Charlotte Flair can do a fucking moonsault to save her life. Beautiful moonsault, but Dustin Rhodes kicked out. Archer then smashed Dustin Rhodes' head into the exposed turnbuckle. Dustin Rhodes bleeding like a stuck pig. Cody came out with the towel, and this moment right here, this visual was badass. Cody came out with the towel. Dustin is holding Cody's hand. Lance Archer drags Dustin Rhodes away from Cody. The towel falls out of Cody's hand into Dustin's hand. Archer drags Dustin Rhodes away from Cody, puts the EBD claw on Dustin Rhodes' head, viciously bounces his head off of the mat, and stares at Cody Rhodes. Looks directly at Cody Rhodes with the EBD claw locked in on Dustin as the referee counts 3. You could not ask for a more badass visual than that. Staring right at Cody. Staring right at him as the referee counts 3. Lance Archer and Cody is your finals of the TNT Championship Tournament. Now, does it need the championship? No. Was it predictable? Yes, I understand your complaints there, but you need to think about this for a minute. There is a bigger story to tell with Darby. If Darby was to make it to the finals, he would have had to win then. If Darby was to make it to the finals, he would have had to win. And you're not going to put Lance Archer in the championship tournament if he's going to lose. You're not going to have Lance Archer in this tournament if Lance Archer is not going to win the championship. If Lance Archer, if you were going to have Darby Allin win, if you were going to have anyone else win, Lance Archer would not have had to be in this tournament. You're not going to have Lance Archer take a loss this early in his AEW career. You're just not going to do that. Lance Archer and his presentation so far has been flawless. They have been booking Lance Archer like the most legitimate superstar in the entire company. Matter of fact, I'm actually surprised that Lance Archer's not fighting Jon Moxley for the World Championship. But there's a bigger story to tell. Lance Archer's going to beat Cody. Lance Archer, even though he doesn't need it, he's going to become the first ever TNT champion. Now you have a gold mine. You have a monster on your hands. You have a beast. You have a savage on your hands in Lance Archer. And throughout the summer, he's going to build up his reputation as an unstoppable fucking monster. Darby Allin goes into All Out 2. He faces Cody. He beats Cody. Darby finally gets his win over Cody at a show that is, in a sense, their WrestleMania. Then, Darby Allin gets a few more wins behind him, and either at Full Gear of this year, or on the last episode of Dynamite in 2020, you have Darby Allin versus Lance Archer. David versus Goliath. A true David versus Goliath storyline. Darby Allin in there with the Murderhawk monster. Darby Allin riding high on his win over Cody at the top of the TNT Championship rankings. Now, you have a big opportunity to transfer that legitimacy that Lance Archer has. Lance Archer, who's been undefeated for 8 months, TNT champion for 6-7 months. You have that on your hands. In slides Darby Allin, either at Full Gear, or if you want to have Lance Archer hold it for a little bit longer than the last Dynamite of 2020. Can you imagine the ovation for Darby Allin if he goes in to a Full Gear, or if he goes into a Dynamite against Lance Archer for 20 minutes? Can you imagine the ovation when Darby Allin keeps on kicking out and kicking out and kicking out of the punishment that Lance Archer is dishing on him? Can you imagine the ovation that Darby Allin's going to get when Lance Archer is beaten with a coffin drop? Can you imagine the ovation that Darby Allin's going to get when he beats Lance Archer and becomes the TNT champion? That is going to get Darby Allin even more over than he already is. He's already over. But right now, if you have that take place towards the end of the year, Darby Allin is going to become even more legitimate than he was before. Darby Allin is going to be made into a fucking superstar if you have that. That legitimacy is going to transfer from Lance Archer to Darby Allin. And then you have a gold mine. You have a star in the making. You have a legend in the making in Darby Allin. You have a legend in the making in Darby Allin. He loses the title by mid-2020-21, and by the end of 2020-21, he could be in the world title picture. That is how you build a star. That is how you make a new star. Darby Allin is your second TNT champion. You have Lance Archer win that title. Now you have the opportunity to tell a story with Darby Allin finally beating Cody at All Out, and then towards the end of the year, finally achieving glory, and Darby Allin becomes the TNT champion at the hands of Lance Archer, and he rides high into 2021 as the TNT champion. That I am telling you, that is going to make Darby Allin into a bona fide megastar. And now you have the opportunity to make another megastar with whoever beats Darby Allin. As far as Lance Archer's first challenger, based on what happened, I think his first challenge is going to be Dustin Rhodes. I think we're going to see Cody lose, and Dustin Rhodes is going to gain some momentum back, and he's going to challenge Lance Archer, and Lance Archer is going to beat Dustin Rhodes as in his first title defense of the TNT Championship. But this was a great show, building very nicely towards Double or Nothing. I can't wait to see what they do next week. NXT, this was a good show. It was good, but this week, Dynamite just outshined them, just by a little bit. We did have NXT outshining Dynamite the previous week, even though Dynamite did get the win. But regardless, this was a very good show. We had some more Cruiserweight Championship tournament matches. We did have a new character debut for Candice LeRae. We did have a very good North American Championship match between Damian Priest and Keith Lee. So the show started off with Isaiah Swerve Scott versus El Hijo del Fantasma in an interim NXT Cruiserweight Championship tournament match. We had a big Frankensteiner off the ropes to Fantasma for 2. Fantasma with the basement dropkick. He mounted a comeback on Swerve. Big Frankensteiner, frog splash on Swerve for a 2. We had Isaiah Swerve Scott with the big German suplex. Fantasma with a tope suicida spear on Swerve. But Swerve was able to fight through the pain and crucifix Fantasma for the win. Very, very good match. And in my eyes, I believe Isaiah Swerve Scott is going to make it to the finals of the interim NXT Cruiserweight Championship tournament. Very good match. Very good way to start off NXT. I am very happy that Isaiah Swerve Scott is getting this opportunity, and I can't wait to see what they do with Isaiah Swerve Scott going into the finals of the championship tournament. We had Dominic Dijakovic talking about Johnny Gargano revolting against the system. Meanwhile, it's the same system that put him in about 50, 100, 50 million straight takeover matches, right? Him and his wife are complaining about everything, so he challenged Johnny Gargano to a match next week, and we get the match next week. During the commercial break, it was shown that the two masked men that kidnapped Raul Mendoza and Joaquin Wilde tried to do the same to Fantasma again, but they failed. I don't know where this is leading to. I don't know what this is, but it does have me intrigued. And there have been no reports coming out explaining what this is. This has almost been a complete mystery. And you know something? That's actually what I like about this. This actually brings a little bit more unpredictability into the landscape of NXT. Because right now it seems as though NXT and AEW as well, you know, they're the two best wrestling shows of the week. But they've been a little bit more on the predictable side as of lately. But NXT, I do have to give them credit here for being able to put forth this storyline of two masked men kidnapping cruiserweights. And there have been no reports coming out. No one has said anything about it. And we're just waiting in anticipation of who could this be. So I got to give them credit there. So Candice LeRae took on Kacy Catanzaro. Johnny Gargano was actually channeling his inner Leo Rush, which was great. Candice looks great. Candice looks like a badass. Kacy with the senton for a 2 count. LeRae ended up firing back. She tried to go for the Gargano escape, but Kacy reversed it. She ended up hitting the surfboard stomp for the win. Morrow coined it the ugly stepsister, and Candice LeRae gets the win. Candice then locked in the Gargano escape afterwards while Gargano was sitting there with his head in his hands, kicking his feet like a little teenage girl. This new role that Candice is playing, great stuff. This is brilliant. Matter of fact, if they do not become NXT champion and NXT Women's champion by the end of the year, WWE is making a grave mistake. Timothy Thatcher and Matt Riddle are shown on the stage. Riddle says, we're going to prove to the world why we are the best team in the world today. And I know you like the back of my hand, if I knew the back of my hand for 2 weeks. You gotta love Matt Riddle there. We had the Newly Bros show, hosted by Byron Saxton. So Timothy Thatcher didn't know what the fuck was going on. Riddle answered the first question. Byron asked, hey, Tim, what did Riddle have for breakfast? I have no idea. And Riddle says, no idea, bro. Then we had Tim say that he has never owned a television. Byron Saxton did a Netflix and chill innuendo. He then asked, what was the craziest place that you've done it? Quote unquote, done it. If you know what I mean. Says that he once had a triple threat in a laundromat. And Riddle then showed his pad and it said threesome on a washer. Threesome on a washer. So before we get to the bonus round, Imperium attacked Riddle and Thatcher, and Imperium held up the NXT Tag Team titles. I don't mind Imperium in the NXT Tag Team title hunt, even though more than likely before this pandemic, they were more than likely scheduled to win the NXT UK Tag Team titles at TakeOver in Dublin. But I definitely don't mind them in the NXT Tag Team title hunt. Matter of fact, they could very well end up winning the NXT Tag Team titles. You never know. The Newly Bros segment as a whole was terrible. I will say it was terrible, but in the best possible way. Like, I could have done completely without it. It was the dumbest thing that I've ever seen NXT do this year so far. But it did make me chuckle at times. Trust me, I like comedy and wrestling, but this was a little bit overboard, in my eyes. Thank God Imperium attacked. And I actually can't wait to see Imperium versus Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher. That could be a very intriguing NXT Tag Team title match. Could very well be one of the most hard-hitting NXT Tag Team Championship matches that we've seen in 2020. Next week, it has been confirmed. We will see Adam Cole versus the Velveteen Dream for the NXT Championship. Does Velveteen Dream win the title here? I don't know. It does seem like the proper time, but now with the recent introduction of crowds coming back, I don't know. Supposedly WWE has already filmed this next week worth of tapings for Raw, NXT, and SmackDown. Supposedly it's already been filmed. So this supposedly has already taken place. I don't know what happened. I don't know if Velveteen Dream won. I don't know if Adam Cole won. We'll have to see. This could be a rather intriguing match. This could be a very interesting match. if anything, I would definitely give the title to Velveteen Dream. What more could you have done? What more could you have done if you wait a little bit more? Even if the crowds come back, it really wouldn't make too much sense, because if Velveteen Dream loses, then how are you going to justify him getting another opportunity at Adam Cole? I don't know. It doesn't really make too much sense to me. We'll definitely see what happens, but next week is looking like a TakeOver card. I don't know how many more TakeOver cards they could do just to try and beat out All Elite Wrestling. Mia Yim versus Charlotte Flair. I am sorry, this was not a good match at all. This was not a good match at all. I don't know what it was, but for the majority of this matchup, Charlotte Flair, it's like Charlotte Flair was booking her own matchup right here. Charlotte Flair no-sold about 75% of Mia Yim's offense throughout the majority of this match. It legitimately made Mia Yim look weak. It legitimately made Mia Yim look like a like a third grader being bullied by an eighth grader. I don't understand this matchup at all. Oh yeah, we're going to elevate Mia Yim, yet 75% of her offense is being no-sold by Charlotte Flair. And you know that Vince McMahon has something to do with this. Please do not give me this bullshit that, oh, Triple H is booking NXT. He's booking Charlotte Flair this way. You do realize that Vince McMahon is keeping a watchful eye on Triple H, right? Charlotte Flair is Vince McMahon's golden child in the women's division. If Triple H books Charlotte Flair the way that he books the majority of the NXT women's talent, like equals, if Charlotte Flair is not booked to be above everyone else, you know that Vince McMahon is going to say something. We all know that this move was a Vince McMahon move, because he apparently thinks that Charlotte Flair is going to draw ratings for NXT. Meanwhile, AEW again beat NXT in the ratings when Charlotte Flair was on the show. How about that? This was not a good match whatsoever. Every time she tried to mount a comeback, after one offensive move, Charlotte no-sold it and took Mia Yim right down to the ground afterwards. I swear to God, it reminded me of grammar school bullying. Charlotte won with the figure eight. Yim tapped out. Io Shirai came out, got in Charlotte Flair's face, said that, Charlotte, next week, you are mine. So not only do we have an NXT championship match, we also have an NXT women's championship match next week. So now we have to watch Charlotte Flair not only bury Mia Yim, not only Caden Carter, not only Rhea Ripley, but now we have to watch Io Shirai be a sacrificial lamb for Charlotte Flair in this worthless NXT Women's Championship reign, the most unnecessary championship reign of the modern era. And I am even including Jinder Mahal's WWE Championship. Outside of Jinder Mahal's WWE Championship reign, this championship reign with Charlotte Flair is the most unnecessary championship reign that we have seen. The day that she loses the championship is the day we can finally get some legitimacy back to the NXT Women's Division. Because the NXT Women's Division is slowly being delegitimized. It's being delegitimized faster than Zelina Vega's stable. Finn Balor next week will also address his attacker. So we actually have 3 TakeOver matches next week, plus Finn Balor addressing his attacker. Dexter Lumis versus Shane Thorne. Very academic. Spinebuster by Lumis. And a head and arm triangle. Thorne passes out. And I did tweet out a question. Here's the question. Is Dexter Lumis the next North American champion? Leave your comments and answers down below. Drake Maverick versus Tony Nese. This was decent. Nothing really too special. But it did get Drake Maverick over. Even though he is not being rehired. I'm actually shocked that Drake Maverick won. Nese used his power against Maverick from the opening bell. Drake Maverick mounted a decent comeback, big missile dropkick. Nese went for the running Nese, but Maverick hit the running corner cutter for a 2. Nice kicked out. Maverick with a top rope corner bulldog for the win. Drake Maverick is going on to face Kushida. He is now 1-1. We'll see what happens when he faces Kushida, more than likely next week. Keith Lee versus Damian Priest for the NXT North American Championship. This was great, but I'm telling you right now, this was great, but the fact that there's nobody in the audience, it kills me. It really does kill me to see Keith Lee and Damian Priest putting on such a great championship match. And Keith Lee's NXT North American Championship reign's been great thus far. Keith Lee could very well go down in history as the best North American champion. Keith Lee's been doing some great stuff as North American champion, and there's no crowd to give back to what Keith Lee is doing. Take nothing away from Damian Priest as well. Damian Priest has come into this role beautifully. Damian Priest looks like a complete badass. He looks like the guy that everyone wants to be. He's 6'5". He's jacked up. He's got these sunglasses. He's got a nice facial hair combination going on. He's got long jet black hair, hanging around 5, 6, 7, 8 different women. The character that Damian Priest has been portraying wants to live forever. He's got a nightstick. He's beating the shit out of people with a nightstick. The character that Damian Priest is playing is a great character, but there's no one to give back to that. There's no energy to give back to that. This match was great, but it was just hampered down to me because of the fact that there's no crowd. And that goes with every match. That goes with every match for professional wrestling. It's not just the fact that it's a championship match, but it's the fact that every single match that takes place in pro wrestling, it needs that energy. It needs that energy from the people watching. We don't have that. Now, hopefully, even though it's 25% max capacity, I hope that is definitely going to play a factor into making the shows just a little bit better. Giving back to what they're doing. Even if it's just 25% of the venue being filled, I definitely hope the people in the arena are definitely going to create some sort of atmosphere that we can get behind. But regardless of that, this was still a great championship match. Lee and Priest, they brawled all the way over the barricade. Lee was a fucking monster, by the way. Military presses Damian Priest over the barricade onto the apron of the ring. Now, remember, this is a 240-pound man. 6'6", 6'7", 240, 50-pound military press by Keith Lee over the barricade. Lee went for a crossbody, but he ended up putting himself through the barricade. That sent the barricades flying. Lee with the slingshot pescado on Priest. Priest with a barrage of kicks and forearms and a huge falcon arrow. He calls it the broken arrow. Priest then with an Undertaker-like dive over the top rope and the post. He dove over the top rope and the post, taking out Keith Lee, sending him into the barricade. Cyclone kick off the top for a 2. We had a big superplex by Lee in which he deadlifted Damian Priest, like Cesaro deadlifts people. Priest kicked out. Chokeslam on Lee for a 2, and he's getting frustrated, so he brings in the nightstick. But Lee stops him, says, "I am limitless." He does the Grizzly Magnum chop, takes the nightstick, gives it to the ref while he's still looking at Priest, and delivers 2 spirit bombs to retain the title. Great match. Even though there was no crowd to give back to them, this was still a great match. I am loving what they have been doing with Keith Lee. Keith Lee has been doing great stuff as North American champion. 4 title defenses so far. Now, let's see where he goes. Great way to end NXT. Very good show outside of the Newly Bro show and Charlotte versus Mia Yim. I don't even want to talk about Smack. I really don't even want to talk about SmackDown. I'm sorry. I really don't even want to talk about SmackDown. I will, but I really don't want to fucking talk about SmackDown. SmackDown has no energy as it is. SmackDown has no energy as it is. It has nothing to do with the pandemic. It has nothing to do with the pandemic. SmackDown Live before this pandemic was shit. SmackDown Live during this pandemic is shit. SmackDown Live after this pandemic will be shit. This show was shit. Daniel Bryan, he came out. He says that he loves trying new things. Says that he's excited for Money in the Bank and he's excited for the opportunity. Talks about his previous Money in the Bank ladder match win. But he says he's sad that Drew Gulak isn't getting the opportunity in this match because of Corbin and his cronies. Says for Corbin to come out so we can settle this. So Corbin comes out, says that he'll be King Money in the Bank. Bryan actually called out Corbin for his previous Money in the Bank failure. And the match started. Match wasn't necessarily bad, but the pacing of Baron Corbin's matches, especially during this time period where there's no audience, the pacing of his matches, I don't know if you really noticed this, but it really brings his matches down. Corbin's a great wrestler, don't get me wrong, but I really do not like the pacing of Baron Corbin's matches. I just don't know what it is. It feels as though it hampered this match down from being what it could have been. And on top of that, when Baron Corbin's on television, no matter how great of a wrestler he is, his fucking character sucks. The character sucks. I mean, who wants to sit there and watch a grown man act like he's a king after he won King of the Ring back in September, when realistically the King of the Ring winner should have gotten a world championship match instead of this shitty king gimmick? How long do we have to sit through Baron Corbin and this shitty king gimmick? When are they going to get rid of it? That's what I want to know. Corbin sent Bryan's shoulder first into the post. Going into commercial, Bryan mounted a comeback, big suicide dive, missile dropkick, and an ankle lock on Corbin. The target was Baron Corbin's leg. We had a big stomp on the ankle. Corner drop kicks were countered into a deep 6 by Corbin for a 2. Corbin then threw a ladder at Bryan, caused a DQ. Match was not that good at all. We then had Bryan locking in the yes lock on a ladder before Nakamura and Cesaro came out to save Corbin, and Corbin threw Bryan into a bunch of ladders, and King Corbin and his cronies stood tall. Not a very good way to kick off SmackDown Live, and matter of fact, I was not feeling very good. I haven't been feeling very good for the last month. My fucking intestinal disease has been fucking killing me. I mean, if you follow me on Twitter, you know that I've been tweeting how I fucking hate my intestines. I fucking hate them. I fucking hate my intestines, but this, I'm telling you, SmackDown is actually making me feel worse. I'm in a fucking flare right now. SmackDown's actually making my flare worse. It's actually making my intestinal disease feel worse than it really is. And then Braun Strowman came out. Braun Strowman came out to speak on his Money in the Bank match before he was interrupted by Bray Wyatt and a new episode of the Firefly Funhouse, saying that he is going to tell the story of the Black Sheep. Says that the Black Sheep was taken in by the shepherd, and he cared for the Black Sheep, and they became the best of friends. Until one day, the Black Sheep left the shepherd for greener pastures. Didn't even leave him a note. And this made the shepherd really sad. Sooner rather than later, all of his animals left him, and then the reptiles came in, and they took over the farm. You know how bad reptiles are. And then Bray Wyatt said, "It's a very sad ending. I think we should write a happier ending. An ending where the shepherd finds the black sheep. The shepherd finds the black sheep and reminds him who he is. An ending where the black sheep is taken to slaughter." Strowman says that Bray Wyatt should come out and say it to his face. Bray just waved goodbye, and next week we get a face-to-face confrontation with Bray and Braun. Bray is fantastic. This was fantastic. All the more reason why they never should have taken the Universal Championship from him, and you should have built towards Daniel Bryan versus Bray Wyatt at SummerSlam of this year, where Daniel Bryan could have eventually taken the title off of Bray Wyatt, because Bray Wyatt and Daniel Bryan was the only match that the people rooted against the Fiend Bray Wyatt, and was the only match in which Daniel Bryan actually got the crowd to root against the Fiend, because Daniel Bryan is that good at what he does as a babyface. And Bryan was the only man, and he's the only man that could benefit from a win against the Fiend. Sheamus versus Leon Ruff. 3 Irish Curse backbreakers and a bro kick for the win. He went over to Michael Cole and said, are we going to take a look at your best mate's Jeff Hardy's new promo package? And Cole says, yeah, we're actually going to do that right now. And Sheamus was like, okay, let's have a look. The Jeff Hardy story, Chapter 4, The Comeback. Sheamus stuck around to watch. And next week, Jeff Hardy will be back in action. So he leaned in towards Michael Cole and he goes, so Jeff Hardy's back next week, huh? Jeff Hardy's going to be here next week? So will I. This match makes no sense in terms of momentum. And I said this last week. It makes no sense that you're going to book this match at Money in the Bank, ultimately resulting in Sheamus taking a loss, and then Jeff Hardy going on to face The Fiend, Bray Wyatt, and then he's going to take a loss to The Fiend, Bray Wyatt. So neither man's momentum is going to result in anything. Makes no sense. It is not a good booking decision at all. No matter how good of a match it could be, and more likely than not, it will be a good match. But I will say this. The video packages that Jeff Hardy has had, combined with how Sheamus has been bullying Michael Cole. Both men, Hardy and Sheamus, they've been playing their roles very, very nicely. Sheamus, in this current role that he's playing right now, has actually been very good. Sheamus is legit. Whether you love him or you hate him, whether he's gone through shit booking in the past or not, Sheamus knows how to make you hate him. Sheamus knows how to be legit. Sheamus knows how to be a bully. Sheamus knows how to be a heel. And you got to respect that. Sheamus knows how to be a heel. Jeff Hardy, one of the biggest baby faces in the history of the company, not just of the modern era, in the entire company. No bigger babyface than Jeff Hardy. I was actually rewatching when Jeff Hardy actually won the WWE Championship from Armageddon, or at Armageddon, from Edge and Triple H. And it's moments like that that you really want to look back on when it comes to a guy like Jeff Hardy. That's how much of an impact Jeff Hardy has had as a babyface in the company. Mandy Rose versus Carmella, Money in the Bank qualifying match. This match went about 3 to 4 minutes. I barely paid attention. Sonya got involved. Mandy looked like a complete idiot, and Carmella qualifies. That's it. Mandy looked like a complete dumbass. And I've said this once, and I will say it again. I said this when I talked about AEW and when Pentagon Jr. interfered in Christopher Daniels' match with Sammy Guevara on the January 8th episode of Dynamite. I've said this before. Mid-matches and distractions, the way that they are played out, I'm telling you right now, they are one of the most outdated concepts in pro wrestling that you could ever find. It makes the baby faces and sometimes the heels, it makes the people involved in the match look like idiots. Why are you taking your attention off of your opponent, especially when there's something on the line in a Money in the Bank qualifying match? Why are you taking your eyes off of your opponents just because someone is coming out to distract you with your words? Keep your eyes focused on your opponent. Keep your eyes on your opponent. It is an outdated concept that makes the participants in the match look dumb, and it honestly needs to be abolished. Completely abolished from all major pro wrestling promotions. That's all I'm going to say on that. The field is set for the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. If anyone but Shayna Baszler wins that match, the match is going to be a complete waste of time. It's going to be a complete waste of however many minutes supposedly it goes, because it's already been filmed. And supposedly, they're doing it simultaneously. The men's and the women's Money in the Bank ladder matches are being done and will happen simultaneously. I don't know about you, but we could be looking at one of the biggest clusterfucks in the history of Money in the Bank. New Day versus the Forgotten Sons. Was this a good match? Yes, it was a very good tag team match. I'm not going to discredit what these two teams can do in the ring. Steve Cutler, Wesley Blake, Kofi Kingston, and Big E are 4 very underrated wrestlers, and they put on a very good match. I'm not going to discredit what they did in the ring, but why is it that we always have to revert back to a team beating champions in a non-title matchup just to set up another title matchup at a later date. More likely than not, we're going to get the Forgotten Sons versus the New Day for the SmackDown Live Tag Team titles at Money in the Bank. And do you have any faith that WWE is going to pull the trigger on the Forgotten Sons? It's way too early for them. You really have any faith that WWE is going to pull the trigger on the Forgotten Sons? They're going to give the Forgotten Sons the tag team titles? Do you have any faith in WWE to pull the trigger on the Forgotten Sons after every other fucking tag team that has come up from NXT and has been absolutely wasted on the main roster? Enzo and Cass, the Vaudevillains, American Alpha, The Revival, Heavy Machinery even. Otis is apparently a singles wrestler now. What more can I say? It was a very good match, don't get me wrong. But at the end of the day, complete waste of time. Complete waste of time. Nothing more than stereotypical WWE booking, having people beat champions just to set up a matchup at Money in the Bank. Forgotten Sons are going to lose, and they're going to fade into obscurity just like every other tag team from NXT, because WWE can't seem to get their mouths off of the New Day's cock. New Day, in their own right, need to split up. I cannot stand the New Day as tag team champions anymore. I've said it before and I've said it again. What is the fucking point of having a tag team division if you're going to give it back to the New Day over and over and over again? 3 times they've been tag team champions within 8 months. You may as well just make the titles props of the New Day. And my fucking throat hurts. We had an interview with Tamina backstage. Sasha tried to sweet talk Tamina before Bayley attacked her. Lacey got involved. We got a big brawl. Next week, we got Tamina and Lacey Evans versus Sasha and Bayley. We got Strowman and Bray Wyatt facing off next week. Face-to-face confrontation. And we got Corbin, Cesaro, and Nakamura versus Drew Gulak, Daniel Bryan, and a partner of their choosing. Otis versus Dolph Ziggler. Money in the Bank qualifying matchup. Otis ended up defeating Dolph Ziggler. Was it better than WrestleMania? Yeah. Not by much, but it was better than WrestleMania. And Otis defeats Dolph Ziggler. He qualifies for Money in the Bank. Here's what I will say. I love Otis, and I'm happy for Otis. Please, don't get me wrong. I love Otis, and I'm very happy for Otis. I'm happy that Otis is getting this opportunity because he's very underrated at what he does. Otis is probably, as we speak, the biggest babyface on SmackDown Live. He's probably the biggest babyface on SmackDown Live, but I don't understand why Otis is getting the spotlight and WWE seemingly forgetting about Tucker and Heavy Machinery. You're seemingly pushing Tucker and Heavy Machinery to the side and that tag team to the side when realistically, Heavy Machinery should have been the next SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions. They had that great performance in the Gauntlet match. Otis beat Dolph Ziggler. He got Mandy Rose. Why is WWE not capitalizing on the momentum that Heavy Machinery have? Why are you only focusing on Otis and pushing Tucker to the side when they should have gone into Money in the Bank and they should have beaten Miz and Morrison for the Tag Team Championships? That's highly unfair to Tucker. That's highly unfair to Tucker. I'm happy for Otis, and I want to see Otis succeed. Don't get me wrong. But at the same point in time, you can't just forget about someone who has busted his ass just as hard as Otis has busted his ass. Why is Otis competing in a Money in the Bank qualifying match? Why is Otis getting this opportunity? I don't have a problem with Otis getting the opportunity outside of the fact that him and Tucker have pretty much been pushed to the side. Tucker's been pushed to the side. Heavy Machinery's been pushed to the side. All for this storyline between Otis, Mandy, Ziggler, and Sonya. Heavy Machinery should have been the next SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions at Money in the Bank. They should have beaten Miz and Morrison clean in the middle of the ring. I don't understand what WWE's obsession is with having these tag teams break up, even though they're not officially broken up yet, pretty much split up, and constantly have to have one be the Shawn Michaels and one be the Jannetty. Why not have them succeed first as a tag team, then you can talk about breaking them up? Heavy Machinery have barely even barely even been given an opportunity to succeed as a tag team. They haven't had a SmackDown Live Tag Team Championship match one-on-one or a tag title match 2-on-2 ever since September. That the SmackDown Live Tag Team Title Elimination Chamber was the first title match that they had in about 6 months. Why is it that you don't have any respect for new tag teams? Why is it that you always have to revert back to the same tag teams over and over again? New Day, Usos, New Day, Usos. Right now it's the New Day. Pretty soon I guarantee you the Usos will be the SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions. They're gonna end up taking it off the New Day. You know what's gonna happen. You know what's gonna happen. Bring some new blood into the tag team division. Capitalize on the opportunity when you have it. And the WWE failed. They failed to capitalize on the momentum that Heavy Machinery had. Heavy Machinery should have gone into Money in the Bank to defeat Miz and Morrison for the tag team titles. Now we got the New Day as SmackDown Live Tag Team Champions. I don't have any faith that they're going to give the Forgotten Sons the tag team titles. And more likely than not, New Day's going to have a match with Miz and Morrison. They're going to retain, and then they're going to drop it to the Usos sometime in the middle of the summer. Again, I'm happy for Otis. But it makes no sense to have Otis in this match when he still has unfinished business with Heavy Machinery. And that's unfair to Tucker. That wraps up the weekly show reviews. Let's move on to the news, rumors, and reports so that way I can get out of here and have some lunch. I can relax because, again, I feel like my intestinal disease is getting worse just talking about this shit company. Doing the same shit every week. My fucking throat hurts as it is. I blow my fucking voice out. My fucking throat hurts every single week. You're welcome, by the way. You're welcome. You guys better fucking get me to 2K. Anyway. So my first report comes from Dave Meltzer, and he confirmed on Wrestling Observer Radio on Tuesday morning that Cain Velasquez was released from his WWE contract as a part of WWE's wide range of releases and furloughs. Adios, Senor Velasquez. And I'm about to drop a truth bomb on you right here. Cain Velasquez was never ready for the WWE. He was building and owning his craft in Lucha Underground, or the Lucha Libre AAA. He was building his craft there. He was building his craft there and improving little by little there. But then all of a sudden he started talking to Cody. He started training with Cody, and Vince McMahon, in his sick and twisted mind, is, oh, we gotta sign Cain Velasquez. We gotta sign Cain Velasquez because he can't go to All Elite Wrestling. Exactly what happened. They willingly signed Cain Velasquez when he was less than 100%. He needed knee surgery. He was less than 100%. They signed Cain Velasquez to hoard them away just because he was talking to Cody. More likely than not, Cody probably wasn't even going to spotlight Cain Velasquez like WWE did within such a short amount of time, because that's not what AEW is all about. Yeah, probably would have gotten AEW a little bit more press, a little bit more mainstream, but they were not going to push him directly to a WWE Championship match like WWE did within a month. At less than 100%. The match lasted less than 2 minutes, and it was probably one of the worst WWE Championship matches of the year. It was rated -2 stars by Meltzer. They signed him to keep him away from All Elite Wrestling, even though there was no guarantee that he was going to All Elite Wrestling. He was never ready for the WWE. He was owning his craft in Lucha Libre AAA. And they signed him to keep him away from all these other promotions. He had 2 matches, one at Crown Jewel and a live event match, tagging alongside Humberto Carrillo, and then he's released. That's what WWE does. I don't really know what I can say about that. Goodbye, Velasquez. He was never ready. He was never ready for the WWE. He was never ready for the big leagues. All because he was talking to Cody, WWE decided to sign him because they do not want any other promotion to succeed. Goes back to what I said 2 weeks ago when I ranted on all of those releases that WWE made on Black Wednesday. Vince McMahon does not want anyone to succeed doing the same thing that he's doing unless it's under his eyes, unless it's under his watchful eyes, unless it's on his time, unless it's under his vision. Vince McMahon wants to be at the epicenter of everything. He wants to be at the epicenter of the entire wrestling industry. He wants to own every single promotion scattered across the globe, and he wants all the money from all of those promotions to flow directly into his pockets. That's it. The whole reason why he signed Cain Velasquez. To hurt the other promotions, to keep him away from everything else, because he does not want anyone else to succeed. Curtis Axel was also released by WWE at around 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Thursday. And that sucks. That definitely sucks. That sucks because of the simple fact that WWE barely even gave him an opportunity. Yeah, he may have had an extensive Intercontinental Championship title reign, but looking back on it, and I didn't even realize it back then, I saw him win the Intercontinental Championship. I watched Payback 2013, and I saw Curtis Axel defeat Wade Barrett and The Miz to become the Intercontinental Champion. I remember that like it was yesterday. But that championship reign was overshadowed. It was overshadowed because CM Punk was in a feud with Paul Heyman at that time. He was a Paul Heyman guy, and they didn't even go all the way with Paul Heyman because they were too busy building the feud with Paul Heyman and CM Punk when Paul Heyman cost CM Punk the Money in the Bank ladder match of that year. CM Punk then resulted in a match with Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam, which was probably one of Brock Lesnar's best matches in this second run with the WWE. We then had CM Punk facing Curtis Axel and Paul Heyman at Night of Champions, and then Paul Heyman and Ryback versus CM Punk inside Hell in a Cell at Hell in a Cell of that year, which resulted in CM Punk eventually getting his win over Paul Heyman. That feud with CM Punk and Paul Heyman completely overshadowed Curtis Axel's Intercontinental Championship reign. And when he eventually lost it to Big E, he was then put in a tag team with Ryback that went nowhere. And then we had the B team with Bo Dallas, the Miz Taraj and the B team with Bo Dallas. I mean, what more do you want me to say? What more do you want me to say? They didn't even try. WWE doesn't even try with 98% of their entire roster nowadays. And it sucks. It sucks that he was never even given an opportunity to really showcase what he can do. And when he was with the Intercontinental Championship, it was overshadowed. It was overshadowed by the feud with Paul Heyman and CM Punk. They didn't even go all the way. They didn't even tap into their creative juices with that partnership with Paul Heyman and Curtis Axel. I actually do think that Curtis Axel is going to succeed wherever he goes. I think Curtis Axel is going to get the opportunity to succeed on his own. Speaking of Vince McMahon wanting to monopolize the industry, goes back to this report recently that came out, and it just goes to show you how disgusting the company really is. WrestleVotes tweeted out a report regarding superstar frustration on Tuesday. They tweeted, and I quote, "Hearing from a few different sources that WWE is willing to grant a release to just about anyone who requests one. Basically, if a talent wants out, they can go. Will be interesting to see if anyone really does want out, especially during this uncertain time." That last line right there. During this uncertain time, that is the entire reason why WWE is doing this. If there's any truth to this, and we are seeing the WWE grant these releases to just about anyone, it just goes to show you how disgusting the WWE really is. The only reason why they're doing this is because they know that a lot of people are not going to request it. Why? Because of the uncertain time that we're living in. I guarantee you right now that a lot of superstars, including some champions, Andrade actually wanted out. Andrade wanted out towards the end of 2018 until WWE started pushing him a little bit better because AEW came around. WWE is doing this because that they know that little to no one is going to request their release because there is little to no work for superstars in the pro wrestling industry. You take a look at all the promotions that have been shutting down. MLW, NWA, New Japan is shut down. New Japan ain't the Indies. New Japan is one of the biggest promotions in the world. They're the biggest promotion in the East. WWE is doing this because outside of AEW, WWE, and Impact Wrestling, I mean, I don't know who the fuck wants to go to Impact Wrestling, but regardless, outside of those three promotions right now, I can't think of any other promotions that are still carrying out operations. I can't think of it. Or at least any major promotions that's going to result in wrestlers earning a lot of money for themselves and their families. They knew exactly what they were doing. The reason why they weren't granting any superstars any releases prior to this pandemic is, again, going back to what I said, Vince McMahon is a tyrannical egomaniac. He wants to monopolize the industry, and he wants every single promotion to be owned by him. That's why NXT Japan was going to be a thing. That's why NXT UK became a thing. Though I love NXT UK, and it's been one of the most underrated brands in the professional wrestling industry ever since its inception in 2018, but at the same point in time, it wasn't necessary. The WWE knew exactly what they were doing. They want everyone to answer to them. Vince McMahon wants everyone to answer to him. Vince McMahon does not want anyone else to succeed unless it's on his terms. Vince McMahon wants it all. Vince McMahon wants to be the supreme overlord of everything. That's why he was not granting anyone their release before this pandemic. And if this pandemic was not going on, there's no way that he would have still been granting people their releases. There's no way he would have released 30, 40 people. He still would have been hoarding talent. It's disgusting. It is disgusting. They know exactly what they're doing because little to no people, probably outside of maybe one or two, is going to take a chance during this uncertain time. They know that there is a slim chance that they're going to find work during this time. AEW is not really hiring right now, considering that they have to save money themselves. And Impact Wrestling, forget about Impact Wrestling. Impact Wrestling's been dead for God knows how long. Why would you want to make your name over at Impact Wrestling when no one gives a shit? You have Tessa Blanchard as the world champion. A woman is the world champion, and still, it's dead. The promotion's dead. No one gives a shit. AEW knew exactly, not AEW, WWE knew exactly what they were doing. This is a disgusting tactic by WWE, and this would not be taking place if this pandemic did not exist. I just hope you know that. If you care, I do have some news on Lars Sullivan. As you know, Lars Sullivan was not a part of the recent round of roster cuts. Ringside News has learned that there has been no talk of Lars Sullivan's return. And I quote, "I don't expect to hear anything about him, and not because of the porn," we were told. I don't really know what's going on in that department, and quite frankly, I really don't care. We'll see what happens in that department. I don't really know how anyone could care about Lars Sullivan right now, considering the current circumstances. I think Lars Sullivan is the last thing on everyone's mind. It really does suck. I really do have to admit, it really does suck for a guy like Lars Sullivan, considering that he was very, very, very good at NXT. He was very good in NXT. He had a very good matchup with Aleister Black for the NXT Championship. He had some great matches with Killian Dane. He was a part of that NXT North American Championship ladder match. He had a hard-hitting matchup with EC3. And he got called up to the main roster. He was being built like a beast. He was being built like a beast. And then he seemingly got a win. Then he got injured. And then, that happened. He made those comments. And then we already know what happened at the end of 2019, which I will not go in depth about. It really does suck because I enjoyed his work in NXT. We'll see what happens, but I don't really know what else to say about Lars Sullivan. I really don't think that he's going to result in anything. I think right now Lars Sullivan's career could be dead. I don't want to say it, but it seems as though that's the direction that it's headed in. I don't want to admit it, but we'll have to see what happens. That's probably the only Lars Sullivan report I have heard ever since what happened at the end of 2019. I'll keep you updated on that if I do hear any more reports. Some news on Roman Reigns still not being on good terms with the WWE. So there is an interesting omission from the latest Make-A-Wish videos from WWE, and this is fueling speculation about Vince McMahon being mad at Roman Reigns. Of course, we all know what happened. Roman Reigns pulling out of WrestleMania due to his weakened immune system because of his battles with leukemia. As pointed out in the Wrestling Observer newsletter, Reigns is not featured in the latest Make-A-Wish video that shows all the top talent granting wishes. Keep in mind that in the last few years, Reigns was always front and center in those videos. Furthermore, in banners on the WWE website, there is no mention of Reigns, and John Cena is featured on the banners instead of Reigns. As previously noted, WWE announcers were told not to mention Reigns on TV after he pulled out of WrestleMania. I understand the speculation from some people that WWE may be mad at Roman Reigns, or Vince McMahon's probably mad at Roman Reigns. Oh, they're not mentioning him on TV. But based on WWE's track record with Roman Reigns, do you really expect that this is legit? Do you really think, realistically, this is Roman Reigns we're talking about. This is Roman Reigns talking about. Vince McMahon gladly would have handed the Universal title to Roman Reigns on a silver platter the moment that he came back from leukemia. I understand the original plan, and I understand the type of man that Vince McMahon is, but this is Roman Reigns we're talking about. This was the chosen one. This was the guy that Vince McMahon handpicked, even though he wasn't ready, and he still isn't ready to be the top guy in the WWE. He handpicked Roman Reigns. So yeah, he'll probably be mad at him for a few weeks, but when he comes back, when Roman Reigns comes back, do you honestly think that Vince McMahon is still going to have the same anger and the same vendetta towards Roman Reigns that he had when this pandemic's eventually over? Do you honestly think that's what's going to happen? You know, last year at Super Showdown, I know that a lot of people want to forget what happened last year at Super Showdown, but Shane McMahon beat Roman Reigns in 9 minutes at Super Showdown, and Roman and Vince had an altercation in which Roman said something along the lines of, "You had me fly out to Saudi Arabia for this? To job out to Shane McMahon?" Supposedly there was an altercation, and Roman said he's not coming back to Saudi Arabia. We all know how that worked out. And when I heard this, I was like, let's wait. Because I want to see what takes place on WWE television. Because what takes place on WWE television is a direct representation of what goes on backstage. Because we all know that there's backstage politicking and favoritism. What goes on television could very well either solidify a report or debunk a report. And I was holding out till Stomping Grounds, because 2 weeks later at Stomping Grounds, Roman Reigns faced off against Drew McIntyre. Now, it was a decent match, fairly decent match, but in that match, for about 20 minutes, Roman Reigns faced off against Drew McIntyre, and Roman Reigns kicked out of everything that Drew McIntyre had to offer. Shane McMahon even got involved. When the referee was down. He hit a coast-to-coast on Roman, if I'm not mistaken, and Roman Reigns ended up kicking out of that coast-to-coast. He fought off Shane McMahon and Drew McIntyre. It was essentially a 2-on-1 handicap match. He fought off both men and ended up beating Drew McIntyre. He was booked like Superman to kick out of everything. And right then and there, when Roman Reigns won that match, I knew for a fact the report was bullshit. It was bullshit because Vince McMahon is the pettiest motherfucker on the face of the earth. If that report was true, If that report was true, then Vince McMahon would not have had Roman Reigns go over on Drew McIntyre, let alone book him like Superman to kick out of everything, including the attack from Shane McMahon when the referee was down, and Roman Reigns was able to fight off both members of that duo, and beat Drew McIntyre in the end. I am holding out on this report. I am waiting till Roman Reigns comes back. If Roman Reigns comes back and he's put into a Universal Championship title picture, you know for a fact, you know for a stone cold fact that this report is bullshit. And to be quite honest, after what happened last year, I'm going to be saying that this report's complete bullshit. Vince McMahon, he may or may not be mad at Roman Reigns, could be mad at Roman Reigns, but do you honestly think that he's going to hold that vendetta as soon as Roman Reigns comes back? As soon as Roman Reigns comes back, he's going to be like, oh, Joe, I'm so glad to have you back. You know what we're going to do? Hey, I'm sorry for what happened, man. I'm sorry. You know what we're going to do? We're going to put you straight back in the Universal Championship title picture. Has this company done anything else to sway my thoughts on this issue? It's bullshit. No way. My final report here. Dutch Mantel tweeted out that he overheard directly from WWE's Stamford headquarters that WWE is set to be sold off possibly as early as the middle of May. They are allegedly talking to ESPN and FOX about the deal and are looking to sell both WWE and the WWE Network. There's also been talks of Disney possibly buying the WWE as well. Dutch tweeted, and I quote, "Huge news. Any truth to this? Overheard directly out of at WWE Stamford is that a deal is being negotiated to sell WWE and the network to at ESPN and at Fox by as early as mid-May." Now, this is a rumor, but it has more weight coming from Dutch Mantel, as he still has some friends within the company who could be aware of very big possible business moves. No matter how much weight it has with Dutch Mantel, I'm going to be completely honest with you, I do not see it happening. I don't see it happening for multiple reasons. Number one is because Vince McMahon is way too proud. He's way too proud of himself. He wants to be the knight in shining armor, and he wants to prove that he can run this company and he can remain at the top of the industry as the juggernaut for as long as he is alive. Vince McMahon is way too proud. He is way too proud. He's way too selfish. I mean, he's not even handing the company over to his own son-in-law. And look at what his son-in-law has been doing. You really think he's going to sell it to ESPN and Fox? And on top of that, you have to remember that the XFL just went under. XFL's done. He's done. The XFL, a lot of people, including myself, were saying that the XFL probably was our only hope outside of the Angel of Death that Vince McMahon would have to step away from the WWE. And we'd finally be getting good programming on Raw and SmackDown. That didn't happen because of what happened with this current pandemic that caused XFL to completely shut down operations, and they filed for bankruptcy. Now Vince is currently going through a lawsuit with someone from the XFL, and he's being sued by the shareholders. So automatically right then and there, that gives Vince more time to focus on the WWE, and Vince McMahon has all this other shit to focus on, being sued by people in the XFL and the shareholders. Ratings are declining. So you really think he's going to sell the company under these types of circumstances? No, he's way too proud. He's going to try anything in his power to try and get everything back to the way it's supposed to be. And in his sick and twisted mind, he's going to do anything in his power with the people that he has at his disposal. Whatever he thinks is going to draw ratings, he's going to do anyway. And on top of that, I do need to make mention that a lot of people on Twitter, I was scrolling through my timeline, up and down my timeline, and I saw all these people on Twitter, and they're acting as if it's a good thing. They're acting as if it's a good thing, and I'm like, you know, I would be in that same boat as you, but look at what happened with SmackDown on Fox. We all thought that Fox was going to be SmackDown's saving grace, and we were actually going to get a sports-driven product with actual logic. We were actually going to get a sports-driven show with characters and feuds and storylines that we could actually get behind. And ever since the move to Fox, SmackDown Live has been the worst wrestling show on the planet. Probably, it's at its lowest point that it's ever been since its inception in 1999. Outside of that one NXT episode that we had on November 1st, after Crown Jewel, every single episode of SmackDown has been a complete shit show. I don't really know what else I could say. Everyone's been calling it a shit show. Everyone's been calling it a snooze fest. Everyone's been calling it a waste of time. Everyone's been calling it unimportant, unexciting, uninteresting, underwhelming. I don't really know what other words I can use. Everyone's been saying it. SmackDown Live right now is at its worst point, whether it's because of Bruce Pritchard being the one that's writing the show, or because the executives on Fox legitimately don't give a fuck. We all thought that Fox was going to be the saving grace with this $1.2 billion deal with the WWE. Look at what has happened. SmackDown has gotten worse. SmackDown Live from earlier in 2019, that was better than SmackDown on Fox. This is the worst that I've ever seen SmackDown ever since I started watching it. SmackDown was once my favorite show. SmackDown was once my favorite show as a kid. Watching SmackDown now, in the current state that it's in, I'm embarrassed. It really is embarrassing. You know, there's an old saying. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't. And what I mean by that is we don't know what Fox or ESPN would do with the WWE. We don't know if they would take the company and split it and sell it. We don't know if they would split up Raw or split up SmackDown, and they would sell one show to another company and, you know, sell one show to this company. We don't know what would happen if ESPN, Disney, or Fox got their hands on the WWE. And I'd like to compare this to what would happen with the Yankees when the original owner died and his sons took over. The original owner, he did not like losing, so he would overpay some players, and he would put forth as much money as possible to make sure that his team would win. Now, his sons, they saw it as a business, and they did not like losing, but not at the expense of losing money. And I feel as though that could very well play a factor if ESPN, Fox, or Disney got their hands on the WWE, and they would only solely focus on the business part of it while completely leaving out the creative stances of it. It all goes back to the fact that, again, we all thought that Fox was going to be the saving grace for SmackDown Live. That didn't happen. We thought it was going to be the saving grace for the WWE. That didn't happen. The main roster product across both Raw and SmackDown has gotten worse. I mean, Raw's somewhat bearable, but SmackDown is completely unwatchable. There's a lot of factors to go into it, but at the end of the day, I really don't think that Vince McMahon is going to sell the company, mainly because he's just too proud, and we don't know what ESPN or Fox would really do. Vince McMahon really wants to be that guy, that knight in shining armor, and on top of that, he's got bigger fish to fry than worrying about what ESPN and Fox are going to do with his company. He still wants to make money. We'll see what happens. I'll keep you guys updated on that report, but that's all I got for you today. That's all I got for you today. Another stacked edition of the LFU. I would like to thank each and every single one of you who tuned into this video. Like, comment, and subscribe. Check out all the links in the description. Thank you guys so much, as always, for watching. I can't thank you guys enough. I really do appreciate everything that you have done for me. I appreciate all the people that have supported me on all platforms of social media. I'll see you later today for the Thunderscope live stream with my man, JV Thunder. We're going to be going off the rails on a crazy train, if you know what I mean. I'll see you guys later today, and I'll see you guys next week for Quarantine with Thunder, episode number 6.